What is art, anyway? What is the nature of sin? What does it mean to immortalize yourself through your creation? And are Pop-Tarts actually ravioli? Immortality is an interactive experience that explores these kinds of deep philosophical questions, and it does so through a fascinating, original gameplay mechanic. Don't get me wrong, this isn't like that first-year philosophy class that you had to mainline caffeine just so you could get through it awake. It's also a funny, touching, charming, intimate look at one woman's life through her works. If you've followed the previous works of creator Sam Barlow, you'll be in familiar territory here. Like her story in Telling Lies, your goal is to explore the archival footage and piece together a story. In this case, the subject is Marissa Marcel, and you're combing through 3 of her movies. The magic happens organically, like puzzle pieces falling into place as you jump back and forth through time, putting together a sensible timeline of events. By watching the clips, you'll meet new characters, discover their motivations, and experience a gradual revelation. The overall effect is quite satisfying, like watching an object emerge from the fog, the outlines clarifying while you simultaneously take a stab at guessing what it is. This time around, the idea gets deeper and broader. In fact, Immortality is kind of breathtaking in its scope and ambition. You have 3 movies with fully realized scripts, and a whole host of real actors playing actors in the in-game movies. Between rehearsal scenes, actual takes, cutting room floor scraps, and blooper reels, the movies are mostly complete renditions that you can follow from start to finish. Not only that, but there are outtakes, behind-the-scenes shots, and even appearances on talk shows to filter through. There's even another absolutely fascinating hidden dimension that the spoiler lawyers have forbidden me from talking about. In total, this game is a vast labor of love and a huge creative endeavor that deserves kudos just for having been made. Each movie is aesthetically distinct. Broadly, the movies cover a whole bunch of themes that examine weighty subjects like religion, sexuality, inspiration, the nexus between art and suffering, the burdens of fame, the interplay between producers and consumers of art, and, of course, the concept of immortality, of living on infinitely through your art. Now, I'm an English literature graduate, so I ate this up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But if you're not that way inclined, the overall experience might come across as weirdly alienating, causing you to bust out words like highfalutin and pretentious. Unlike Barlow's previous 2 outings, this one is less grounded in actual detective work, and is more like an exploration, less a trip to the hardware store and back, and more a philosophical meandering that makes you go, and huh, a whole lot. This is important to bear in mind if you loved Barlow's previous 2 games, and are wondering if you'd like Immortality. And ultimately, it's because Immortality attempts to cover too much ground that it ends up not being able to say anything entirely meaningful about any one of its subjects. Sexuality and sin through the lens of religious guilt is a heavy enough subject on its own, but it's also framed through Marissa's experience as a lead actress. You're made to consider her relationship to the subject matter as a brand new actress, chosen from hundreds of other potential hopefuls, as she navigates finding her acting persona and individual style. And that's only one of 3 movies examined in the broader overall context of its heavyweight notion of immortality. With so much breadth, there's only so much depth that is possible. It's a whole lot to consider, and in the end is a little overwhelming, like they could have thrown a little less paint at the walls to see what sticks, and maybe come up with something a bit more narrowly focused. The game's interface is novel and interesting in its own way. You watch clips and can scrub forwards and backwards through the footage. At any time, you can choose to highlight a hotspot on the footage, and it will take you to an equivalent item in a completely different clip. Maybe you click on a bowl of fruit in Marissa's 1968 movie Ambrosio, and you'll be whisked off to a completely different bowl of fruit from her 1999 movie To Of Everything. You progress in this way, gradually unlocking more and more of the archive, with the goal being to reveal as much as you can in order to gain perspective on Marissa's life and works. All the clips you discover are stored in the archive for retrieval at any time, and can be organized chronologically or by subject matter to help you make sense of the order. Perhaps most interestingly, sound cues become game clues, so it definitely requires you to pay attention. Overall, this is a fairly passive experience. Grab your favorite drink and a snack of choice, and just sit back and let it flow over you. There really isn't much to do, and this is interactive in only the slightest sense of the word. A lot of the real action happens in your mind, as you form opinions and theories about Marissa and the various characters that come into her orbit through her acting work. The footage is mostly great, especially if you're into the sausage-making factor of movie magic. The clips range from mundane to intense, and will elicit a whole gamut of emotions, from comedy to tragedy and everything in between. Without exception, the actual actors do a great job of playing in-game actors. In particular, Manon Gage, who plays lead Marissa Marcel, is astonishing, turning on so many different types of character and effortlessly invoking such a range of emotions that just watching her work her talent is a joy. If anything, the late game is where the experience drags. At some undefined point, and it will be different for each player, you start to reach the end of the game by revealing most of what is on offer, and you can tell when this happens when the clips start repeating. With no clearly defined end point, you find yourself flailing, spam clicking in frustration, and hoping the random numbers game works in your favor. Feels kind of like a hidden object game where you're supposed to guess what you're trying to find. Is there supposed to be a finish line I can cross? Or does the experience just kind of peter out? I get it, it's not really a game in the classical sense, there's no winning, but throw players a bone and make the objective a little less vague, for the sake of my left mouse button if nothing else. On the subject of quality of life, some sort of indication that you've already unlocked a scene would have been really helpful, as there end up being a lot of scenes, many with similar characters, backgrounds and props, and it's not immediately apparent if you're watching something you've seen previously, or if it's new. Still, it's absolutely engrossing to watch Marissa grow and change over time, from a fresh-faced ingenue to a veteran actress with her own history, bringing experiences you've witnessed to new roles in different contexts. If you love movies and movie making, if deeply pondering is something you do for fun on a Friday night, if you have a liberal arts degree and you're wondering what good it's for, give Immortality a shot, and you might discover the answer.